Well, that didn't work at all. I gotta fix the cameras apparently.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host, Austin.
And I'm your co-host, Ian.
This podcast was created to provide you, our heroes, with new and reusable material for both players and DMs.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure.
Our show may not be suitable for young children, but neither is our D&D games. Oh, we got that all
No.
out, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well,
You just kind of
Yes, we
kept
did.
on going. I'm like, hey.
it's because I'm trying to fix this. So why doesn't somebody else take the lead really quick and I'll fix the cameras.
All right. Thank you for joining us here at Academy Studios, where everything's made up and your roles don't matter.
Yep, that's right. Heroes are like an arena without any gladiators. Which, then what is it filled with?
Which moves us to
Lions?
our main topic. Yeah, 5 tips for running gladiator arenas. I'm looking forward to it. Justin's looking forward to it. I know Austin is too.
I
But
like
first,
fighting.
before all that, as usual, we have a giveaway.
Yeah, that's right. Our gift giveaway is a Knight of Fright from Stephen Pankotai and Sadie Lowry. Jinkies, Aldrin Beauregard is dead, and he's left 1 million gold to anyone who could survive the night in his haunted mansion. But spooky things are going on, and nothing is as it seems. Luckily, Mystery LLC is on the case. And our winner today is Ozken M10. Congratulations! And if you didn't win, no problem. Just head over to critacademy.com and subscribe for your chance to win. It's really easy and it's free.
Looks like I got everything fixed. Thank you guys for covering for me.
Yeah.
We had a guest on before, so I forgot to fix the adjustments.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Oh man, what an exciting topic today. The chanting of the crowds, the stench of sweat, blood, and fear, and the howls of the dying fill the arenas of Dungeons and Dragons world. Those with courage to step on the field can those with courage to step on the field can find fame and fortune or brutal defeat. Death looks on in hunger, waiting to snatch another soul from crimson sands to feed its dark mistress. In the face of doom, the gladiators fight time and again to test their might, to feed its dark. Ooh, I totally ran into to test their might against their rivals and against terrible beasts thirsty for the spray of hot blood. Such contests are stuff of legend, worthy of bold adventurers and fortune seekers. I'm really excited for this episode, and it has nothing to do with the fact that the Mortal Kombat Red Band trailer was awesome. But it might have been part of the inspiration for this. So today we're going to be giving you tips for running exciting, fun, gladiatorial matches from behind the screen, giving you everything you need to send your players into the arena to either claim victory or defeat. Oh man, how does this sound to you guys?
I'm so stoked for this. I love just arena fighting, even in like fiction. It's always just such a good time.
Yeah, and I feel like it is one of those things
Yeah.
that's a little harder to get right because it can easily boil down to I hit you hit, I hit you hit, I hit you hit. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of insight here for our viewers and can give them some direction to ensure that theirs is memorable.
Mm-hmm. And our first one is actually going to be one of the tips is arena competitions. Now, a combat in an arena is still combat. One or more characters square off against a foe or foes. Both sides roll initiative, and both sides take turns using good tactics and spectacular powers to defeat the enemy. Yet, important differences exist too. An arena encounter is a controlled environment. It doesn't usually spill beyond the battlefield's parameters. Since most characters fighting in an arena aren't likely to have more than one match in a single day, the arena combat can and does eat up more resources than does a normal combat encounter. Add to this the presence of the crowd, the sheer variety of opponents, and the rewards of fame, gold, baubles, and the gladiatorial contest evolves into something more than a simple fight between the good and the bad. It becomes a contest of blood and glory.
And staying alive.
Staying alive.
So, I really do think that it's important to leverage that. I can. Is that somebody's cat being tortured?
Yeah, it's Ian's cat just popping off.
Um,
And keeps meowing next to the mic, Lily.
the arenas. We talk about adventuring day being 5 to 6 encounters a day, right? So
Mhm.
Mhm.
Which is a lot.
in an arena setting, you want to try to make that as close to that as possible. If you're only going to do one encounter, you want to make sure you're going to build up that encounter so that it drains all their resources. Expect them to blow all their big powers and everything and draw
Mhm.
it out if you can. I think that's a big part of it. Especially it mentions the parameters of the battlefield. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things you can have the most fun with. In one of the Patreon games I ran, the characters end up serving the being enslaved and had to fight in an arena that was being flooded with water and it had like dangerous fish, killer fish in the water and stuff. So you can really change the venue in the arena competition a lot, utilizing different themes.
Okay. I could see that. I could also see like the fact that there is, there is an edge to this arena, right? What's at the edge, right? Like let's is it just a pitfall? Like there's spikes at the bottom, or is it just a
Mortal
regular wall that
Kombat.
you can just kind of uh if you're standing against it, maybe you could be like, "Oh yeah, I slammed this just dude's head in the wall and now I don't know, roll for a strength check or something. I don't know, maybe he's prone into the wall or something." You could do some fun flavorful stuff, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you make good points there, especially if you can make it a little more magical. Maybe, there's, instead of it being spikes around the outside, it's a collection of spheres of annihilation. So one of the core ways to win is to knock somebody off the arena and then they're no more. You can
It's
really.
just all fire elementals at the bottom.
The-
Or sometimes maybe there's something around the like some sort of like a magical dome to protect the audience too from the combatants, especially if they're chucking high level spells around.
It's also
I
a good
mean, if
thing.
somebody misses, in theory, those keep going, don't they?
Yeah.
yeah.
Not that that's a common for much in game, but
I like that. It could like splatter on like an invisible shield as somebody's body just goes,
Hmm.
sending
For sure.
reverberations and stuff. And I don't know. That's the arena competitions in the environment are something you really want to play with.
For sure.
Austin or Ian, do you want to tell us about arena encounters we'll talk about the different types?
well, of course. And also during these competitions, you're gonna have various types of encounters. Like that is the entire point of arena combat in the first place. I mean, the match in the arena comes in a variety of forms. And the first one we're going to talk about are duels. A duel pits one opponent against another, which can occur in any venue from fighting pits to a coliseum. And any hazard trips threaten both modes. The larger the venue, the more important the duel needs to attract a crowd. Duels in large venues feature famous gladiators, terrifying monsters, interesting gimmicks, or all the above, or a combination of. Because only two combatants are involved, only one player gets to participate. Because of this, the first trip is done towards duel style arenas,
Yeah,
and probably the most simple, arguably.
right. Yeah, during the duels and other gladiatorial arena matches, where there are players that are unable to participate either due to death or the encounter setup, in this case a duel. You can allow them to run the monsters, the traps, the hazards, or even
Yep.
weapons such as catapults that are lobbing onto the field. Not only does this make for great mechanics, but also a dynamic and dynamic encounters and require a little more strategy on the player's part, making it unpredictable even to the dungeon master. Because if you're putting other players in charge of some of those things, you don't really know what they're going to do or how they're going to behave. Um,
Also takes a lot of the workload off the dungeon master, which is always
oh
helpful
yeah,
as well.
Mm-hmm.
and I think what Ian said it really makes a big deal is the inclusion of unique hazards, unique monsters. I mean, the idea of a single person in a one-on-one match doesn't sound all that engaging. But if you put it to where that one person is versing a beholder in an area where they can be beholder's a bad example because I want something that they don't have a knockback. Something with some sort of knockback, like a giant, that when it
Mm-hmm.
hits them, it sends them flying, and then putting traps everywhere where it's basically trying to baseball swing them into like the hazards and everything, makes that one-on-one match more engaging. Likewise, if there's spikes that are intermittently coming out of the ground, luring a hill giant who's big and dumb into those areas can become more effective than just getting your sling and launching it at the bastard.
Right.
What are some interesting gimmicks you think could fit the theme for a duel? You guys got any ideas?
Gouts of
Trapdoors.
fire.
Couts of fire? What'd you say, Ian?
Yeah.
Trapdoors.
Trapdoor is always good.
Ooh, dude, that would be hilarious.
Or
Like,
maybe it's like a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
because nobody would know where they were at. So as you're trying to evade each other, you might open up a trap that drops
Yep.
you into a pit of acid or lava or spikes or something.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking like,
Or a
what if they're
springboard.
fighting in like a labyrinth? So like everyone's just
Ooh,
waiting, like who's gonna get hunted first?
that's
The
cool.
suspense in the air and whatnot. They could do something like that.
See, that
Maybe
would
the
be
other
a
guy's a
good one.
minotaur, so he's the labyrinth master, and that's like the whole point. I don't know. It could be
No,
interesting.
that's really cool because everyone up top in the stands can see what's going
Yeah,
on.
exactly. So
That I
that,
like that.
and then all the players are like, "Hey, can I send him message from here? Maybe that could help."
Yeah,
Oh,
abilities
that could
like
be
that would
interesting
become
too.
really
Like
good.
maybe they didn't know.
Go lay down,
Maybe
Kara.
they're not used to magic, so when they start using stuff like the message cantrip, they're telepathically like
Hmm.
communicating to each other. That could be interesting.
That is really cool. I like that. Um,
Hmm.
so beyond just the one-on-one, I think that it really takes you got to take all those kind of features in place or ideas into play if you're going to do a duel. But the most common one I think that happens is team battles, right?
Mhm.
Team contests, feature groups of gladiators fighting against each other. These are usually best solutions for like adventuring parties since it includes the entire group, and it really can play to team tactics, and it allows for far more complex and interesting encounters that way. During the team matches, capitalize on the group tactics. An arena should change and evolve during the battle if you're going to have this. An example would be an arena where the floor is, falling away every round into a chasm of spikes, fire, lava, whatever you have. And in this example, not only is the arena shrinking as the battle continues, but the danger of the hazards is growing because there's more places to knock people off of, push them back into, or dive bomb them into it with if you can, fly with like a power bomb or
Hmm.
something. This really
That's
allows for clever positioning tactics to leverage in the teams. What were you gonna say?
I really like the idea of evolving arenas. That
Mm-hmm.
is something that never happens in a lot of fiction, honestly. Because normally, like the whole idea is that it's about this one famous character fighting another famous character, and that's
Right.
where all the the things kind of happen. But I mean, how did the legends get created? And I imagine
Mm-hmm.
like something like this, where like this is more of a hellscape arena. No one dares try it because it's so terrifying, and the risk of death is just extremely high. And like there you could, I don't know, like that. I feel like that is something that needs to be done. Now, granted, I mean, like maybe like it's a blizzard that gets more intense as it goes on. Like maybe the difficult terrain starts to happen. Maybe I don't know, maybe you have like a unique frostbitten condition that's going on or something. Like maybe the characters are continuously getting colder until like maybe exhaustion. I
Right.
doubt that that's really horrible to give somebody, but actually that's another thing. Exhaustion in gladiator fights, like if you're fighting for, hours,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
even in fantasy settings that can people tend to be like, yeah, he's probably a little tired.
I really
So,
think that lends itself well to I'm a huge Final Fantasy 14 fan, and there's a battle, and I've seen
Oh,
this in
yeah.
other games where they're on a boat and it rocks back and forth. What if the arena was floating in the air, and when all the weight is to one side, it tips and everyone starts to slide. So not only are you fighting each other, but as people are running and chasing each other, the entire arena tips, forcing
Mhm.
everyone else to slide in one direction, which tilts it at a bigger angle. So now it gets to the point where everyone's like, shit, I gotta stop attacking this guy and try to climb back up before it
Yeah.
turns, completely sideways like a teeter totter or something, and there's
Yeah,
everyone,
yeah.
falls off. And that really would, I think that would make great, because that would be a tactics thing where you could say, okay,
Hey,
who's
Jimmy, we need you to stand over there.
yeah, right. we need all the ranged people over there. Run and blast while you're running to level out the arena. What do you think,
Mhm.
Ian?
Balancing out is definitely a mechanic you don't see stuff very often. And especially I was trying to run a few ways through my head, like, okay, the more guys that are over here, the more squares they move as a result.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I would imagine there'd be quite a bit of paperwork on that one, and that could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and these do take a little bit more prep than a traditional arena, but that's the point. You
For
want
sure.
it to be epic, you want it to be memorable, and nobody's
Mhm.
gonna forget that time you were on the floating tipsy arena, and poor Billy got slip and fell and went off into a sphere of annihilation at the bottom.
Yeah, that'd be really
Yeah.
crazy.
Poor
I like
Billy.
that though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
that
yeah.
was pretty good. Yeah, yeah. But after team battles, we have grand melees. So a
Ooh.
grand melee is a variation of kind of like this team contest, where in this event the PCs are part of a large number of combatants. We're talking like hundreds, maybe. Who knows? It's a free for all style battle, considering that the player characters are on the same side, because obviously they kind of all enrolled together. I'm sure they wouldn't want to hurt each other. These contests can see the PCs fighting against one another, which could also be really fun. I mean, to test out your character's limits against other player characters.
Right.
Maybe they've always thought that would be fun and cool. This is a safe environment to do that. However, since a player can choose to knock out an enemy reduced to 0 hit points instead of killing it, PCs can participate without players fearing the loss of their cherished adventurers, which is kind of what I was saying. But
Yeah.
I mean, which makes sense too, because actual gladiatorial combats didn't have as much fatalities as people actually thought they did, just because gladiators are expensive to train. You don't want to lose your gladiators.
yeah,
And I would imagine in this scenario too, you don't want to lose your prize fighters, or in this case, PCs.
Right. Right.
and,
Also, a
and
fun fact. Also, gladiator fights had referees too.
And typically, I feel like gladiators, at least historically, were probably skilled enough to be like, "Hey, I'm not gonna land this killing blow on you. That would obviously like kill you. That we're making money together in this, regardless of what happens. So I
Right.
don't know. Maybe
Yep.
that makes sense. So I could see that.
All right. And on top of that, the Grand Melee has a few other aspects to it. It is one of the few arenas where roleplay can potentially be a lot heavier. And this because you could have like leap the battle itself, and there could, as a result, focus on role playing to build short-term alliances with maybe not just other players or even NPCs, and politic to cut a deal like, okay, this is a really tough guy or monster in here. Like the example is if a party members only level 5, and there's a fire giant on the field, which is a much higher CR. Everyone's like, maybe we should work together to take down the big Brutus here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, as a result, alliances may form.
Yeah, I think that's
That can be pretty cool.
I think that's a really big aspect of the Grand Melee format is the politicking becomes a more critical aspect, because there very well may be more powerful creatures in the battle, and so the players first of all are gonna know. Is like, Austin, is that a fire giant? Aren't we? Aren't we like? That's way stronger than us. Like, what are we gonna do? You know.
I'm not gonna go near it. I'm gonna go that way.
Right. So at that point, you're kind of forced. Okay, well, maybe it's okay. Let's all gang up on it and deal with it. We'll make a deal to fight this giant with these 3 other NPCs. But then somebody else approaches you about one of those other NPCs, saying, "Hey, look, once the fire giant's down, that guy's the next biggest threat. Why don't you help?" And kind of creates this little chain of the weakers ganging up and knocking out all the bigger threats. And I think that would make for interesting roleplay, especially if you include the access of like poisoning and damaging and rigging weapons so that they break during combat, sabotaging them. There's a lot that can go into this so that people can leverage to better help themselves, to better make the combat more leveraged in their favor, I think.
And it also, like, because I imagine there's probably some low level. I mean, generally people only get to like around level 7 anyway, or maybe a little bit higher. I don't quite remember the numbers, but this also makes it so you can throw larger CR monsters at them because which doesn't happen very often in D&D, at least in 5th edition. I don't know about previous ones, of course, but I mean,
No,
this
it's true.
means you could be like, hey, this we're level 9 as a group, and we see this it's a high CR monster, a storm giant.
Sure, go with
Storm
that.
giant's pretty high. You know, like typically some level 9s aren't gonna fight a storm giant. That'd be ridiculous. But I mean, Tal Gal over there, the orc who's ridiculously strong, is like, hey, we're gonna go fight this storm giant together because it sounds like fun, glory and blood for the blood gods, and you know, it could be a fun moment for you. Now suddenly your characters are gonna like orcs, so I don't know.
I'm totally envisioning that episode, that point in Avengers where the Hulk jumps at that big, or no, it wasn't Avengers, it was Thor Ragnarok, where he jumps and attacks the big giant fire demon. Like he clearly isn't gonna have a chance, right? Stop, Hulk, stop. Something like that would be really cool.
Monster.
And I think you're right. It gives the DM an opportunity to showcase either very powerful homebrew monsters or some of the monsters in the monster manual that the players just never get to see.
Yeah.
And because of the fact that it could be a team up, it makes for great opportunity when a player does die to take on another character sheet and play a different class for a night, you know? So there's a lot of good stuff that comes there. But the one thing, and this is probably... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, that said, there's been plenty of times where I've seen players take down monsters that are way higher in CR that in theory they should not be able to do it, but they took it down no problem.
Yeah.
Like, I remember like one time in Avernus, like when we were level 7, a Death Knight appeared. And those are what, CR 15?
Yeah.
We all ended up turbo killing the thing just because it's like, yeah, this level 15 demon devil thing, but aside, we're paladins with smite, which do turbo damage to do these things.
Yeah.
Pretty in our
only got
favor.
off one hit before he took it down.
Not sure if his DM gave us some leverage on that. We're not quite sure, I suppose, but I mean,
yeah.
So regardless, we certainly fought it and somehow came out. So
was that an our campaign? That wasn't an our campaign, was it?
Was it not?
No.
No.
Oh.
Nope.
You guys allied up with the Death Knight in my game.
Oh yeah, we did.
And all
That's
his
right.
Hell Riders.
Yep.
Yeah.
So aside from
I
the
didn't even think about just fighting the Death Knight. Good lord.
well, I thought you guys were gonna end up there for a little bit, but luckily,
we
you know,
did that
you were
alright.
pretty smart about it. So those kind of cover some of the different types of encounters that you can have, and maybe a few tips on how to make them really potent. But one of the things that I think easily gets overlooked is victory conditions. Change the victory conditions. Arena competitions end after one side is dead or dying usually. But this doesn't need to always be the case. Arenas feature all sorts of competitions, such as races, fights to first blood. I really like that. It's first hit. Imagine how much different your strategy changes when it's the first person to be hit versus versus just killing them. And the tried and true deathmatch, of course. One of my personal favorites is capture the flag. You can now I'm saying flag, but it could be you know capture the gnome, right? There's a gnome on each side, and you gotta pick it up and carry it or something. There's a whole lot you can do with that beyond just the traditional bloodbath. You know, just surviving. Maybe you win just by not dying, and you know all these maybe they turn a wild beast loose that's too strong, and the whole goal is to not die. Like that to me is a great way to add to a grand melee or a team match, right? just chuck a big giant dangerous monster in there, and your whole shtick is how do I hide from this thing for 10 rounds? You got to survive for 1 minute.
And just throw Grotz at him. Just fucking throw a demon lord. Just like they'll be fine. They're like level 6.
Jonathan Reese in
Or the
the
remoras.
Jonathan Reese in the comments has a really good point. He says he's had his players fight altered versions of themselves, like a paladin of a different oath, etc. I think that's a really cool way too. You could do a mirrored image battle, right? Where whoever
that a lot.
the group has to fight alternate versions of themselves. Themselves if they had chosen a different path or something, which I think is a really really cool to do that. But once again, there's lots of different sort of objectives you could do. Maybe one is to blow up the enemy, fortress. It's a big giant arena. In each side, you have your own little fort, and you each get an orb that has the fireball spell attached to it, and it blows up after it's placed on an altar after a round or something, giving enough time for the other group to get in, grab it, and pull it off of there. So there's a lot you can do, and I think that's probably one of the best ways to spice up an arena is just to change the victory conditions, instead of just straight up death matches.
Instead of just kill that guy.
Right.
Everyone can do that. But we can't forget the most important thing and why it is a gladiatorial arena to begin with. The crowds!
Woo! Cheers! Yeah.
Aside from the dangers gladiators face in the ring, there are dangers outside the ring too. Include the crowd as much as possible. A crowd in the throes of bloodlust can be every bit as rough as a wild beast, and if angered, they might fling rubbish onto the field. Maybe there's a stone and just cracks a guy in the head. Distract the gladiators with insults, or pluck an unwary warrior off the field and rip them apart in the stands.
I love that.
Yeah. Gladiators learn that appeasing the crowd is important to fighting as well, because a crowd won over can be a useful ally if things go bad. A simple way to include this is to use performance checks and to treat the crowd as a layer action that affects the battlefield based on a disposition. Now, we all kind of recommend using the Bless and the Bane spells to start, because it's kind of very simple to use. But of course, you can be as complex as you want. Maybe like a Cure Wounds, someone throws down a piece of chicken, and you're like, oh yeah. And of course, something along those lines. Or inspiration. That's a good one too, which might foreshadow into what we were talking about later. If some of the characters aren't in the match, you can have them roll persuasion checks to work the crowd in the allies' favor as well. The chanting of the crowds, the stench of sweat, blood, and fear, and the howls of the dying fill the arenas of the Dungeons and Dragons world. With these tips, the players will cheer the encounters like the crowds of the arena. At least we hope so.
Yeah. I want to touch more on the crowd thing because I like that you pointed out that Bless and Bane is a really good way to do that. It's super simple mechanic, and there's a clear benefit, a tangible benefit that the characters can actually see, making it take a front row to the game. I also think that you can change that to any variety of different features that you want or mechanics. Like as Austin mentioned, making it a lair action. Maybe if somebody is not so got the crowd hates them, they're starting to lob stuff that maybe that you does some sort of damage. Maybe somebody in the crowd shoots a poison needle at them, so now they have they're poisoned for a round, or they got to make a save or poison for a round. Little things like that would really make for fun and interesting play. And I wouldn't be surprised if a wizard just turned and tried to fireball the crowd if they were not having a good day.
Better hope that barrier's up, because
Ooh, Jonathan has a good point here. He says you could make it a boon for crits or fails.
Yep.
Ooh, I like that. So like maybe you increase the crit range from a D to just a straight 20 to like an 18 to 20 while they have the crowd's favor. Ooh, man, I like that. That's really good. I like that.
I like that too. It's a good one.
Do you guys got any? There's another thing you could do too. I talked about this on our for our bonus episode for our patrons, and it's about having a scale. Like factions have scales, so the disposition could start as neutral, or maybe it's a little higher, or a little lower, depending on how long they've been in the arena. So you really could say, okay, I'm gonna have 5 levels of disposition. Neutral, and then the crowd likes them, or the crowd loves them, or the crowd doesn't like them, or the crowd hates them. And so you could even change that bless and bane boon to scale the die. So if they get, at a neutral, they get no benefit. At a like, they get a D4 bane, right? But at a love, they get a D6 or a D8. Or at a hate, they get a D8. I mean, a D8 minus roll to your stats, that's gonna suck.
Pretty heavy.
So
Yeah.
you're gonna go out of your way. And the biggest thing I like about this is we mentioned persuasion. It also should be performance, or performance and persuasion. Goes a long way, but the performance should be a big focus of it, because first of all, it's a feature a skill that doesn't get as much use, and I think that this would be a good chance to let it shine. So.
It's also, I think, a background for like the gladiator. There's like a
Mhm.
gladiator styled background, so maybe you can use that to your advantage as well while you're doing this gladiatorial kind of encounter
Right.
setting.
Now
So
I feel like I gotta build one. I gotta build a nice, good gladiator combat for our patrons. It sounds
That's
like
kind of like my battle royales that ran here and there.
yeah. You've got notes on those. You should send those to me. I could probably do something with them. Overall,
Oops.
is there any? Never mind. Overall, is there anything you think that we should talk about that we didn't cover in our little tips here?
no, I think we got it pretty good.
Well, I'll go
I
through.
kept
Go ahead.
when you mentioned capture the flag, I actually flashed back to a time where at the start part of the game, the players were kind of like as part of a ritual, forced to participate in a capture the flag style thing to see if they're worthy, if you will. And yes, melee combat was allowed. And guys could be knocked out, but me being like the spellcaster is like, I'm not gonna grab the flag and run back. I'm slow. I'm not very tough. I get beat up easy. So I ended up using spells instead to like screw with the enemy. Like I cast grease around our flag and on the flag.
So as soon as they try to grab it, they slip and fall. I love it. But that's the sort of
Pretty
stuff
good.
that makes that different than a traditional arena battle.
Yeah, just like
Right,
running
and
to
that's
kill
not
them.
something that would be a viable strategy per se in a straight up combat fight either.
Right. So that goes back hand in hand with why it's important to include other victory conditions. So what did we learn today for our five big tips? The first one I have to say is your venue and the gladiators gimmicks. You need a environmental gimmick to go with your arena to make it interesting, right?
For sure.
During the gladiatorial matches, make sure that you include monsters, traps, and hazards, such as catapults.
Yeah.
Capitalize on group tactics in team battles. The arena should change and evolve during battle to get the most out of this, so the team's strategy has to change, right?
Ooh, use the catapults to launch the fighters at each other.
That's actually pretty good. Like
I like that one.
the wizard ready's ready is like burning hands or something. All right, pull the trigger, and he flips and then lets it go. The grand there should also be for grand melee, include roleplay and politicking in building alliances to bring down bigger foes, or encourage the poisoning and cheating inside the arena to gain the advantage. I feel like rogues would really have a lot of fun with this, but don't always let them succeed. Let them do them checks and see if they get caught. Change the victory conditions. Victory conditions. Don't do just a bloodbath. Make it capture the flag. Make it king of the hill. Different victory conditions just make arenas more fun. Period.
For like escorting a person of interest or like a payload.
From one end
You
to the
gotta
other.
Yeah, they gotta get there, and all these people are trying to get it from them.
Yeah, that'd work really well with that labyrinth idea you were talking about earlier.
Ooh, I just only thought of one where you have to play a game of keep away, where you have like basically a ball, if you will, that will explode. So the two teams are constantly picking up and chucking it back at each other. Like, nope.
Bloodscore says catapults launches tigers, lions, and cheetahs into the arena. And then last but not least, include the crowd as much as possible. They are just as much of what makes an arena exciting as everything else. I mean, if I was to run one of these, I would totally want to have background audio cheering, of an arena going on. Maybe even have one or two buttons that are like, oh, or boo, to add to it. I'm sure you can find those on the internet somewhere. So
I'm sure.
With these tips, the players will cheer the encounter like the crowds at the arena. I think that'll do it for our main topic today. 5 tips for running gladiator arenas. Woot woot. So do that. Before we move on to our other tips and tricks, I just want to let you guys know that we have 3 brand new products out now. The Werecat playable race, oh my gosh, it has been flying off the shelves. Everybody loves it. Check it out. You got the Cleric Warmind if you're into playing more of the psionic builds. And of course, who doesn't like to touch an enemy and send them falling in the wrong direction with our Skybreaker? Each of these are available at critacademy.com for just $1.95. We're cheap.
Yeah.
Try to be.
And now, what you've all been waiting for. Our Unearthed Tips and Tricks segment, where we bring you new and reusable material for both players and DMs.
All right, it looks like our boy Ian has taken up our character concept today.
The character concept today is definitely a dish best served cold. Revenge! Blood is bound tallow this day. I warrant it will be yours. And this entry, by the way, does come from Dragon Magazine. A rare few gladiators enter the arena to right a wrong. As usual, as it sounds, sometimes getting down and dirty in the fighting pits is what is needed to get back at the people who have crossed you. To such a gladiator, fighting in the arena is a means to an end. The target of hatred might be another pit fighter, someone who works the games, a patron who keeps a stable of gladiators, or a raving fan of the sport. A gladiator's vengeance is driven by something that may, cause him to resolve a dispute after a single bloody match. Another might ravage the enemies financially or emotionally first, perhaps defeating the target's personal champions one by one. Such a careful plotter only faces the real foe once everything else has been taken from them. Yeah.
Ooh, I like this. So I like the idea that somebody's, for whatever reason, has a vendetta against a particular person, and the foe, the person they're seeking revenge in, all their income comes from gladiator arenas. So going in and destroying and taking out and killing every single one of their prize fighters is undoubtedly one of the best ways to not only crush them emotionally, but financially turning them into something worse than death, a pauper. What do you guys think about this?
I'm always down for a good revenge story. It's all I ever live for. I just want some guy to get what they deserve, man. It's good.
It just occurred to me that if the arena is a big enough venue and enough people are brought in, maybe they may have an insurance policy because gladiators are so expensive to train in the first place. Yeah, he just died. All right. Regular bonafide.
That's awesome.
Just saying.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, in this world of magic, and death can sometimes just be an inconvenience. So if they die, they're just like, all right, we got this guy on staff, put him in.
Yeah, but bringing somebody back alive though is expensive. So you
Yeah,
would
but it
have
doesn't
to
mean
be.
it's not
That's why it was a huge venue that brings in a lot of money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then they might be able to. That sounds like. I feel like I feel like I watched an anime or something where it was a lot of that, and they just died temporarily. But anyways, I think that'll do it for the Vengeful Gladiator. Our monster variant today is the Battle Scarred Veteran Gladiator. That's a mouthful. Now
Yeah.
you're probably sensing a trend. Like,
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So in order to make this veteran gladiator, you're going to start with the Arenas stat block. The lost features are going to be damage and condition immunities. It's going to lose its telepathy. It's going to lose its magic resistance. True sight, multi-attack goes down from 3 to 2. So, what are the new features you're going to give this new gladiator of yours? Well, how about we give it veteran experience? When the gladiator rolls a 1 or 2 on a d20 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, they get to re-roll it, but must use the new roll.
Yep.
Somebody got an upgraded lucky feature, eh? Or luck feature.
That's right.
We're also going to give them tactical insight. They're so experienced and used to combat. When the gladiator finishes a long rest, it rolls 2d20s. The GM records the numbers rolled. The gladiator can replace any attack roll, saving throw, or ability check made by a creature that it can see with its tactical insight rolls. This sounds familiar. The gladiator must choose to do so after the roll, as its tactical insight allows it to predict the best course of action, but before it knows the result. Now, each tactical insight roll can only be used once, and when it finishes a long rest, it loses any unused tactical insight rolls. Does that sound familiar to you guys?
A little bit.
Now, is it only you imposing it on them, or he can just choose?
He can choose.
Any...
So
Okay.
it's very much the wizard's portent ability, but I had to change it up a little bit to fit the thematic of the gladiator. But basically,
Right.
we're passing off its experience is, oh, I roll these 2 dice. Okay, I've got a 4 here and I've got an 18 here. Well, I know that exactly what he's going to do, and so I'm going to parry it. He gets a 4. That's pretty much it.
I like that. It's cool.
And of
Yeah.
course, we're going to give him legendary actions because I love me some 3 legendary actions. 2 for the attack. That makes up for the 1 we dropped away, right? And then we're going to give him tactical awareness. If the gladiator has already used its reaction, it can roll a d6. On a 5 or 6, it regains the use of its actions. If you don't know, the origin creature that we used has a parry reaction, increasing its AC by 3, I think. So there's a potential that its AC will be able to be increased more often, but for 1 attack. Not super useful against multi-attack, but can definitely reduce the incoming damage from a target. So what do you guys think about this?
It's pretty
think-
good. I like it. This is like a fun, like
Could be work.
humanoid boss monster that's like just like, because I can imagine just like, oh man, I rolled a crit, and then the gladiator's like, but I parried it, and you're just like, the player's looking at his hands like, huh? What do you mean?
Right.
It's like, yep, it's actually a 4 now.
Yeah, that's a terrifying and annoying ability when the players have it. So I don't mind giving it to a monster.
Right. So I think that it works well. Like, he just has all this experience, so he's like you can just say like, oh, you could just think it's a for sure hit. You know that if you just strike right this way, there's no way he could possibly guard it. But just somehow the gladiator just knows that you were about to swing that way, and he just parries it. And he's just like, what? But I rolled a 20, and you're like, you did roll a 20. It's a 5 now.
It reminds me of I don't know, in Phantom Medicine, you know, we spoiler alert, Qui-Gon Jinn dies by Darth Maul, but then I
Oh
think
man, I can't believe it. I didn't know.
in follow up, I think it was in Rebels. Was it Rebels that
Yep, it's in Rebels. I know what scene you're talking
Obi-Wan
about.
is fighting
Yep.
Darth Maul, and Darth Maul tries to use the exact same move that he used to kill Qui-Gon, but because of his experience, Obi-Wan kicked Darth Maul's ass. So
I was amazed how short the fight was too, but
yeah,
still awesome.
right. It was awesome. It was a very great callback. But anyway, so that's kind of what I was trying to capture here. I want to thank my patrons in the Patreon community, who kind of helped me come up with some of these mechanics for it. You guys are awesome. I'll have the uploaded file for you guys early next week. So I think that'll do it for our monster variant, the Battle Scarred Veteran Gladiator.
Oh, I guess I can take the encounter.
Okay.
I didn't realize that. The encounter of the podcast is no named. We forgot to, but that's
Oops.
okay. We're
That's
just
my
gonna.
bad.
I'm just gonna start it. We'll
Yep, go
figure it out once we figure it out. Dakota Thrawn, a female elf noble, has ordered House Aaron to take a more active role in the conquest of the region. Unfortunately, Lord Jared Aaron, I don't know why that name sounded funny to me, a human spy, homelands are rife with House Varen supporters. You have been asked to sneak into the home study and plant a small orb imbued with the Arcane Eye spell. You will use this will allow House Aaron to find Varen sympathizers easily and bring their piece of the region under control.
I like
Yep.
this.
It's very simple. It's very short,
Yeah, I didn't write
but
a
it's
book.
it's a more of just like a stealthy kind of mission. However, that does not mean it has to stay as a stealth mission. As I imagine, if you task a good few paladins with this, they're gonna be like, we're gonna do this a little bit diplomatically. Oh yeah, how's that? I'm gonna tell them if they don't allow us to do this, I'm gonna smite them.
Aggressive negotiations.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping as a man with full plate walks in through the door, sword and board on his back.
I think in order for this to really work properly, it would need to be a stealth mission, just because once you break
sure.
in and kill people, they're gonna probably want to know what else is is wrong. But sneaking in and dropping something off as like a very stealthy spy-ish mission, they're less likely to notice anything out of the ordinary. And I think that's mostly the goal here. I don't think this is something that necessarily has to be done with the entire group. I totally can see giving the responsibility of sneaking into the area to one of the stealthier people, but then having the other players kind of support that character by reporting, where the guards are patrolling.
Oh, like they're staking out. Yeah, for sure.
So there's more you can do with that, and maybe you add a little bit more of detail of why it's bad if they get caught.
Or they could pose as a building inspector, or if there's at least one bard in the party. Mark could just simply say, "Hey, I'm a bard. I'm here to entertain," and use it as an opportunity to slip it in there.
I've been watching this thing on YouTube where these guys try to prove that they can get into anywhere with a ladder. So they just walk into theme parks and movie theaters with a ladder, and it works. So I would totally buy that. So
that, honestly, that really has changed my whole view on a lot of things. It really is just that simple. You just have some easy uniform on, bring in a ladder. Not many people question you.
You just walk with intent.
Yeah,
high level deception.
Exactly. You just I know exactly what I'm trying to do. And
who's gonna question a couple guys carrying in a massive ladder? There must be going somewhere.
Yeah, clearly something is broken, and if you work there, you know something is broken. Nothing's always fixed. There's always something wrong with wherever you work, no matter what.
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah, he's fixing the AC. Oh, yeah, that's Jerry.
Okay. Or just wave at people. Hey, what's up, Sammy? And just wave in a general direction. Somebody there will probably wave back at you. I think that'll do it for our encounter of the podcast. I Spy.
As we had named.
See what I did with it? See what I did there with the arcane eye? Yeah.
Yep. Our magic item today, lightning bolas. It's a net, and it's uncommon. This unique and small net has weights intertwined with it on its ends, making it easier to throw long distances. In addition, the weights tend to wrap around a foe, restricting their movement. The unique design of this net allows its range to increase to 60 feet. As a bonus action, you can speak the item's command word, and lightning springs from the net to deliver a shock to a creature touching it.
Oh my.
Nice. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw, or take 2d4 lightning damage, and it can't take reactions until the start of its next turn. On a successful save, the target takes half damage and can still take reactions. I think we actually need a DC for that, but other than that, we're good.
Hey, Austin.
Yeah?
Austin. Does that sound
what
familiar?
I got caught with? Yeah. Is that what I got caught with back in the superhero campaign? Because I was like, this sounds really familiar.
It's called something else, but I just basically gave it a more fantasy name for this. But yeah, you're right. There's no.
It's really funny.
There's no DC. I need to fix that.
Yeah.
DC 15 if you're curious. What do you guys think?
All right, I
It's
like
very
it.
simple, and I agree with it being uncommon. Like it's just a, it's almost like those lightning manacles you gave me one time that I put out a boss. I was just like, hey, buddy, no move, don't take that off. Why? It'll hurt. I've seen a man fry to death with these.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
I like it. It's just a very, and DC 15 I think is totally fine. I mean, realistically, like the 2D4 doesn't
It's
do a
not
whole
much,
lot to
yeah.
most things. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's totally fine with where it's at.
Yeah.
Especially even for uncommon. Like, yeah, if you would have said rare, I would have been mad.
Yeah, well, not quite that potent, but
Yeah.
the best part is it makes the net a more viable option to use in game.
Yeah.
Because the net doesn't get as much love as it should.
Nope.
It really doesn't. But
All right,
what can you do?
that'll do it for our magic item, lightning bolas.
Really like that one. That was a good one. Our dungeon master tip, though, is arena quests. I wonder why this came about.
Wow, that's weird. It's out of the blue.
Wow. As with any adventure, those centered on arenas should have a quest to involve the entire party. Unless you use a heavy-handed force the adventurers to fight for their freedom, which admittedly some players don't like that, which is fair. Arena adventures have a hard time keeping the characters involved. Thus, building quests for your players requires finding ways to keep them invested in the outcomes of particular duels and matches until the situation is resolved. For example, we got a few here. Cheating. The characters might investigate a particular venue to follow tips on suspicions of cheating. Cover. The arena might conceal a sinister enterprise involving cultists, criminals, or possibly a political uprising. Missing people. Missing people are disappearing all over town, never to be seen again. Looking into these vanishings, they discover a criminal ring drags them to a distant location where they fight in actual death matches, whereas this arena might not. Wherein maybe they pride themselves off that, where they're like, no one dies here, we don't allow that. Murder. Wow, almost like that's typical in fantasy, but hey, I mean, it happens in arenas too. Each day, for several days, gladiators just turn up dead, and not from the fighting in the pits. The sponsors fear their stables are going to be wiped out, which obviously, if you can maybe garner some help from these sponsors, maybe they'll offer a nice little reward on top of that.
Yeah.
In one of the adventures I ran for our patrons, this was one of the things that happened where all the demi-humans were being preyed upon and carried off to a city to be, tossed in this fighting arena. So it makes for a much more interesting quest than just, hey, you're a slave, you start here.
Yeah. I like the idea that it's I mean, I think the missing people one, where people get dragged off into like these distant locations, it offers them to kind of like they take their time at this gladiatorial arena, and now they have foreshadowing to go elsewhere to take
Right.
this different route to what's after this arena. Well, clearly these people are being dragged off elsewhere. We should go there. Maybe it's towards like an important city, and maybe it all lines up. Maybe that's how your DM is pseudo railroading you. It's like, oh, you guys see this arena. Also, these people are being dragged off to the main city that I'm keep telling you guys about, and you should really go there.
What do you think, Ian?
Definitely a few angles to cover, and I even thought about how the kidnapping, for example, might cover their tracks by hitting them with a polymorph spell, turning them into animals, or changing their
really
appearance.
smart.
Shit,
So
that's
nobody
good.
realized that they're the ones who were being killed in the said arena.
Like
That is very smart.
I could totally see like having like a single passage that that's got guards and stuff, and every day they're the guys, put this guy walks by every day with wheelbarrows, and he's like, hey Jim, how you doing, Jim? He's like, who's that? Oh yeah, you'll get used to him. He comes by every day. Yeah, he always has a wheelbarrow. We always suspected he was smuggling something, but every time we looked, we couldn't find anything. Turns out he was smuggling wheelbarrows. That's like polymorph slaves.
Holy shit.
Oh
It's
my
just a
gosh.
wheelbarrow. We never really thought about it. It comes in with a new one every day. It's really weird.
I do like
Every time I ask him, he just says he's cleaning the old one.
I do like the cheating is another good one too, where somebody is like poisoning
Mm-hmm.
poisoning the gladiators or something, and you got to investigate why. So you have to survive long enough. But this also puts the players in player characters in a precarious position because what happens when they get drugged up makes them an easy target. So, all right, I think
I
that
really like all of these.
yeah, right. I think that'll do it for our Dungeon Master tip, the Arena Quest. Our player tip of the podcast is don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
I can hear my wife shouting. I'm going to be honest, I did not come up with this. This is 100% from Alex Baum, who will be joining us again on March 21st
Cool.
to talk strongholds and
Nice.
followers. Turn a curse into a boon. Cursed items are often a huge threat to you as a player and your character. This comes in many forms, such as altering personalities, giving an adventurer one or more vulnerabilities, or maybe turning an adventurer's face into a horrifying visage so nobody wants to look at him. And poor bards, that would be wreck their whole spiel.
Yep.
While these can seem like terrible curses and a huge inconvenience, don't forget that you can make these items available to your enemies. Whether it's through a sophisticated bluff, a brutish intimidation, or a more tactile, suave persuasion, you can find a way to convince an enemy to utilize a cursed item that can eventually greatly benefit the heroes in their adventuring career. If you know that you've got an item like, for instance, the armor of vulnerability, right, is a great example. It makes you you're vulnerable to piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning, I think. If you could somehow polish it up and sell it to one of the big bads, how much easier is that encounter going to become? What do you guys
It's going to
think?
be ridiculously easier.
The one I randomly thought about was, what if on your way to a group of thieves, you decide to slip with them a berserker axe? Now, that sounds like it might be a boon to them, but if they fail their check, they'll go berserk and attack the nearest creature. I could include their allies.
That's cool.
My immediate thought was the sword you gave Zorax. If I was just like, oh man, this good guy's really pissing me off. Hey, like this sword, real pretty. Just touch it once, just once. It's good. And as he touches it, his just body explodes in necrotic aura. It's just he's dead.
I could totally see like you disarm him and then drop your weapon on accident, and so he's disarmed and has no choice but to pick up your weapon. Would really fit that really good too.
Be really funny.
I'd
probably have to roll like performance or something and be like, oh, I totally dropped a sword, I gotta grab yours. And then he's like, fine, I'll grab yours. And he's like, oh my god, my hand's burning.
Shit.
I'm surprised, Justin, you did not once mention Warbreaker during this player tip. The book.
Yeah, I didn't at all. Is there a particular part you're talking about?
Nightblood, the sword.
Yeah. Okay. Duh, I'm an idiot. That's actually the weapon he's got was edited based around that. Where if you guys don't know, because we're talking outside, in Warbreaker, there's a sword that basically kills people when they grab it by sucking out their evil, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of just eats their soul.
Yeah.
It devours their breaths, which is like their souls, and it's very cool.
Yep.
It's also in Way of King Stormlight Archives too.
Yep, in the Stormlight Archives. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Stormlight Archives is so good.
oh my god, yes, dude. Like
Brandon Sanderson.
I just found out that I've had the book and I've listened to the audiobook, but there is a graphic audiobook where they add sound effects and voice actors to all the people. So I was like, I'm gonna go get this, but like part one's like $100. I'm like, shit. That's not the book. That's part one of the first book. I was like, shit. Anyways, so I think that'll do it for our player tip of the podcast. Don't be a dick. And you can avoid dickitude by turning a curse into a boon. Before we close out, we have another gift to give away. Compliments of our generous sponsor.
Yep. A Night at the Tavern from Starshine. After a long day of adventuring, nothing beats a night at the tavern. A night at the tavern focuses on all of the activities that can be found in the tavern, from services such as an accommodation and recruitment, to traditional tavern games such as Trevor Haypenny and Smite. I could also see like gambling and darts for that matter.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in this product. Who's our winner?
Our winner today is WernerClote at gmail.com. I do not know how to pronounce that last name, so I'm sorry if I probably butchered it.
That is A-okay. We do that all the time here.
Oh, yeah.
Got that.
That win? No problem. Head on over to critacademy.com and subscribe for your chance to win.
Yeah, do it. Do it now. I'm really excited for next episode. Hopefully you'll join us next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern here at YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're watching from. We will be joined by the D&D influencer Game Master Craig. Together, we will be discussing 10 alternative ways to use inspiration. I'm really excited for this one.
See, I told you inspiration would come back. It was all foreshadowing.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
We hope to be an inspiration to you. See what I did there? If you enjoyed the show and you want to support us, please visit critacademy.com. Check out our Patreon page. We got lots of goodies, lots of maps and encounters. Follow us on social media. Leave us a review. We have all kinds of lots of good content. Please follow us and subscribe on YouTube. We just passed 800 subscribers, so I'm super excited. It's going up
we have
a lot.
we have a lot of like really short, like maybe 1 minute videos that you should really check out. They're really easy, quick to use, like tips. Just give it a go.
Yep.
1 minute Dungeons and Dragons tips.
And they're all great.
Yes, because I'm awesome. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host, Austin.
I'm your co-host, Ian. Thanks for listening.
Keep your blade sharp and
Keep your
spells.
blade sharp and self-prepared here.
You bastard.
You didn't say anything. There's like a long pause there, so I just kept on going.
There's a delay in Discord. We gotta account for it.
I'll allow it. Continue, peasant.
I tried to.
We'll just edit it out in post. Seth will be like, I gotta choose one,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna choose Ian.
Say it. Say it.
Keep your blade sharp and spells prepared, heroes. Damn it, Ian.
There we go.